Good evening, everyone. I'm Leah Cooper. Thanks for joining us. National Security Minister Marvin Dames hoping to set the record straight on his exchange with parliamentary colleague Frederick McAlpine in the House of Assembly yesterday. Mr. Dames telling reporters this morning that Mr. McAlpine seemed to have wanted to apologize for comments he felt misrepresented him. Those comments, based on what Mr. McAlpine shared on Love 97's daily talk show Issues of the Day earlier this week. At the time, Mr. McAlpine agreed that Mr. Dames, as well as fellow Cabinet Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands, resign or be fired following their involvement in the Frank Smith extortion and bribery trial. But Mr. Dames said he was simply not interested in hearing an apology.
I am one of those who's taking my oath very seriously, okay? Very seriously. So I'm not going to get involved in the sideshows because that's what it is. You don't say something in the press, and then when you're done saying it, damage done, you come back and you try to butter up. That's standing on the fence.
But Mr. McAlpine isn't the only F&M MP to call for Mr. Dames to get the boot. Taking a similar stance are Centerville MP Reese Chipman and Golden Isles MP Vaughn Miller. Then there's the repeated requests from the opposition.
And I say to the leader of the opposition and all of those who stand up, let's go anywhere this world over and let's measure respectability. Let's measure trust. And see who will remain standing at the end of the day. Let's see who will remain standing. So my reputation precedes me. I listen to all the nonsense, and there is obviously a clear intent on their behalf. They want to see me gone. But I'm representing the people of this country. And the vast majority of the people of this country is not satisfied with the status quo.
Well, Progressive Liberal Party Chairman Fred Mitchell is concerned about Mr. Dames' behavior. As he says, it's the second such outburst by the National Security Minister in response to criticism of his conduct in public office. The first occasion came as the PLP on the 13th of February called for his resignation and that of the Minister of Health after they were judicially condemned in the ruling in the Frank Smith extortion and bribery case. On both occasions, he says Mr. Dames had to be physically restrained. Mr. Mitchell says that apart from the inappropriate incivility of a member of parliament as Minister of National Security, licensed to be armed, it is quite dangerous and unacceptable for there to be these public displays of fury, petulance, and pique. He adds that it shows that he is not fit for purpose. The danger is that Mr. Dames, he says, will now further use the police force under his command to go after his political opponents. The display, he adds, is indicative of his unfitness to hold such a high office. The PLP chairman recommends he enrolls in an anger management program for his own personal good. Again, Mr. Mitchell advises both Mr. Dames and Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands to resign, while Attorney General Carl Bethel, he says, should consider his position. The Ministry of National Security this morning launching a 24-hour trafficking in persons hotline, the first of its kind in the Bahamas. The hotline's to be used exclusively to investigate such matters, or as Mr. Dames puts it, providing victims of trafficking another lifeline to secure assistance.
This dedicated hotline will allow victims and those who suspect a friend or loved one is being trafficked to anonymously report the crime. This new tip hotline will be overseen by the TIP Secretariat personnel within the Ministry of National Security.
Commonly referred to as a modern-day form of slavery, trafficking in persons calls for the selling and exploitation of humans for profit, a dehumanizing but big business.
Trafficking in persons, or human trafficking, is commonly referred to as a form of modern-day slavery, where human beings are sold and exploited for profit. This criminal practice is dehumanizing and robs individuals of humanity and rights. Trafficking in persons is primarily a transnational crime, although it can occur within the victim's country, and according to International Labour Organization, accrues in excess of 150 billion annually, using some countries as source, transit, or destination places. The traffickers and victims in the Bahamas are mainly from within the Caribbean region, South and Central America and Asia. Since the inception of TIP, there have been 4 cases of traffic victims that were investigated in the Bahamas.
For the 24-hour hotline, you can call 376-8477 Mondays to Fridays between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. That's 326-0133, and the Family Islands can call toll-free at 1-300-3339. The economy is growing, just not quickly enough to absorb new job seekers, and that's reflected in the latest unemployment figures. This then leaves the government to enhance its efforts to meet the demands of the job market. And according to Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Peter Turnquest, doing so means providing an impetus to provide sector growth by supporting small and medium-sized enterprises, which account for the bulk of new job opportunities.
Many are the business ideas in the minds of thousands of young Bahamians. However, the harsh reality is that most of their dreams awakened, or those dreams awakened, to is the absence of proper and willing capital channels to bring their ideas to fruition. If no business ideas are being realized, then no new businesses are starting up, thereby meaning no new jobs, no new products or services, and essentially no new economic activity.
The government had pledged to fund capital to small businesses to the tune of $25 million over a 5-year period, exceeding expectations. The first year has yielded nearly $9 million in funding. So far, the Small Business Development Center has over 2,400 entrepreneurs registered, with the first 7 companies ready for funding. The minister stressed, though, that the selection of candidates is far removed from the direction and control of politicians.
No one has to come to me or to the Prime Minister or to any minister or member of Parliament to get sorted out, as they say. We recognize that this initiative will fail if it becomes a mechanism to dole out political favors. We've been there before. The only qualifications are that applicants must be Bahamian and be able to demonstrate that they otherwise have the attitude, wherewithal, experience, and commitment to make their specific project happen.
The DPM's comments came during the mid-year budget communication in the House of Assembly. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.
This segment of the news was brought to you by Alive.